This is Master Your Mindset with Coach Mark.
Hey guys, what is going on, my people? Welcome back to another episode. I'm super pumped about today's topic. I probably say that every single time. But a little bit of a side note. For some reason, I know that we're posting these on YouTube now, and we have some people who are watching me on YouTube. It's like I've literally been doing solo podcasts, but wearing headphones, which makes me look like an idiot. But here I am. Okay, guys. So today, I really want to chat about this. If you're somebody who is a business owner, and you are like putting things out there into the world, and you're not getting a lot of engagement from your people, or maybe you're like spending like a lot of time trying to find people. You're constantly seeking them out and they're not coming to seek you out. Or maybe you're spending like so much time spending like, and I said spending like thousands and thousands of DMs back and forth just to get people's attention. And then they pretty much ghost you and you never hear from them again. If that's the case, then today's episode is going to be for you, because what I'm going to be showing you, or what I'm going to teach you here in this episode, is how to create demand for what you're doing right now so that people start seeking you out, asking you how they can work with you, as opposed to you spending all day trying to seek them out. How would it feel to have people come to you and ask how they can work with you without you having to spend all of the time and energy going and seeking them out? That's what we're really going to talk about here today. So we spend a lot of time focusing on what's called sales psychology. Josh likes to talk about what's called the belief bridge. And that's what we do inside of our programs. And they're not going to be able to like share with you all of those different strategies, because of course we do that inside of the program, and it requires some additional coaching to really help pull that out for you. But today I want to give you like a little bit of the first step in this process, okay? Now, for me as a life coach, I like to dig deeper than what people are normally telling me, because I know that like just telling people what to do and just giving them information is not really what's going to change their life. I need to find what's actually preventing them from doing those things, what's keeping them stuck. And normally if we're on the outside and somebody says, hey, I need more leads, in reality, I know that it's probably a few levels deeper than that. And if I can ask powerful questions, I can actually find the issue. Because how many times have we done this where we've given people like the roadmap to get to where we are, and then they don't take any action, and we either think it's something wrong with us and our teaching, or something's wrong with them, or a mixture of both. And in reality, it's neither of those. It's called limiting beliefs, and we all have them. But in reality, being able to discover that by asking you powerful questions will get you to like fix the problem rather than putting a Band-Aid on a broken arm, okay? So when I think about people reaching out to me and saying, Mark, like, what is up with this, like, creating demand? Like, how can I get it so that people will reach out to me? I kind of like see this in terms of like a problem. I think of myself in their situation and what are some of the problems that they're experiencing right now, right? So some of the problems are that you don't have enough people who want to purchase your program, so that you can't make a significant income in your business, and you also can't like reach people and make an impact in their life. And that's the problem, right? It's because you're thinking like, how am I ever going to make this possible? Not only so that I can help support my family, but also help make the impact in the world that I want to make. And when you think about like the amount of energy and effort that we're putting into that, that requires us, or not requires us, it kind of tricks us into thinking that we need to go out and we need to take massive action. We need to send thousands of messages. We need to figure out like these algorithm hack and everything like that. And what that does is it gets you to take a massive amount of action. Like they say, is like throwing things against the wall to see what's going to stick. But the problem is that's what you always do over and over and over again. And so if we take a look at your actions that are actually causing that problem, it's the thought that like, hey, if I'm taking action, it's going to produce results. That means if I take more action, it's going to produce more results. But that doesn't work. That doesn't work. And I can understand why you might think that that's the case, but it's not the case at all. Do you know some people who work less but actually achieve more? Do you know some people who are constantly hustling, constantly throwing things against the wall, but then they don't have anything to kind of like prove that they're actually making those, or taking, not only taking those actions, but getting the results that they truly want? I know plenty of people, including it was me. This was me not so long ago, because I was focusing on the vehicle. I was focusing on, well, should I do a workbook? Should I do a Facebook ad? Should I do a challenge? Should I do a webinar? Should I do this? And I was constantly changing it to seeing what exactly like the world wanted me to build, as opposed to building what I knew that I needed to build and then really sticking to it for the long term. So if you're somebody who's constantly focusing on the vehicle, the thing that you can do, I really want you to think about this. What if there's a way that we can help you create demand for what you're already doing, so that people come and they they find you because of it, and they want to take that next step with you. Now, not everybody's going to want to do that, but what if there's a way that we could just do that one thing that you do really, really well and just send a ton of people to it? And as a matter of fact, it will get people to have this demand to reach out and say, hey, I want to work with you. I've been having this recently where people will reach out to me because I don't do one-on-one coaching anymore. They'll reach out to me and they'll say, I don't know what you're doing, but I would really like to have a one-on-one coaching session with you. And I connect them with other great life coaches, but because I am a co-creator of Life Coach School and the co-creator or a facilitator inside of the 626 program, like I don't have enough time, or I don't want to really reduce some of those other things when it comes to the impact to be able to make those one-on-one sessions, because it takes too much for me. And so I'm able to like give that to other people, but I had never had it before where people reach out to me and say, hey, what is it you're doing? And I'm not a magical unicorn. Like I don't have it all figured out. I mean, how many times have you already heard me mess up in this podcast? Because I'm just like, I just want to share with you like authentically who I am and when I do make mistakes, because I want you to know that I'm not magic or I'm not like special or anything, but I understand some of the philosophies we're going to be talking about today. Now, what we're going to talk about is we're going to talk about some invisible elements. I give a teaching or a training at the Power of I Am, which was this big coaching convention in July. And I talked a lot about like invisible elements, because what most people do is they want the things on the outside. They want the actions. They want give me the strategy, give me what I should say, all those kind of things. And they fail to realize that it's not the visible elements on the outside, it's the invisible ones. Like Josh has always told me, he's like, your outward success is a reflection of your inner growth. It has to start on the inside, right? We did a podcast about this recently where when I tell you to picture like a beautiful flower, you don't picture all the roots that it takes to actually lift it up. But if you didn't have that, the outside would be irrelevant, right? And this is another one of those invisible elements. It's one of the invisible elements of sales, okay? Now, when you read a book, when you listen to a podcast, when you watch a video, I want you to understand this. Your brain doesn't want to expend any energy that it doesn't have to. And so as you're reading, you may not know this. As you're listening, you're even thinking about this while we're going through this podcast. Your brain is trying to convince you whether this is something that's for you, whether it's something that is like relevant to you, and whether it's something that you need to learn or that next step that you need to take. Believe it or not, your brain is constantly doing that all the time. It's running in your subconscious mind. And when I can speak to you the way that I've spoke to you so far on this podcast, and I can speak to your subconscious mind, you will pay attention. You will pay attention because it will be like, hey, listen to what he's saying because this is important. Continue reading this book because this is what you need to learn. But anytime that you find that they're not speaking to your subconscious, or it's telling you that like, hey, this isn't for you, you're actually going to stop doing that because your brain will be like, it's okay. Let's get comfortable. We don't have to expend any more energy listening or learning that specific thing. And so how this happens is that book or that podcast or whatever it is speaking to your subconscious, and your subconscious is saying, hey, keep listening. This is important. You need this. Well, guess what's happening? That's what's happening when you're speaking to your customers. That's what's happening when you're giving a webinar, when you're doing a challenge, when you're putting together a workbook. Like, are you speaking to your client's subconscious mind so that they go, I got to keep listening to this, and this is something that is relevant to me? Because that's happening. I mean, this is the whole reason why we have the belief bridge, which Josh teaches about inside the 626, is because if you speak to them on their level, they will be willing to take the path over the bridge to get to your program. But if you're not speaking in their level or speaking to their subconscious mind to that level, you're not going to be able to create demand for them to want to take that next step. Now, how we do that is I've actually done it in this podcast. I want you to go back and re-listen to it. How we do that is we speak to people's problems. We speak to people's problems. Remember, the brain is wired for negativity. It's wired to keep you safe. It's wired to not want to expend energy. And so what it'll do is it'll be searching everywhere to find, like, how can I prevent myself from doing X, Y, and Z? How can I prevent myself from, using up and expending energy that I don't necessarily want to use? And it will get into this protection mode. And if you can speak to people's problems, you speak to their subconscious mind. And the more clear you paint a picture, the better. So if somebody says, hey, you know what, I'm just overwhelmed. Like, everybody's overwhelmed. But paint a picture for me. Like, if I were to be viewing you from the top level, looking down, what would overwhelm look like? What are some of the things that you're doing? You go back to the beginning of this podcast, I was talking about sending a massive amount of messages, throwing stuff against the wall to see what's going to stick, not getting any engagement from your stuff, but you know that it's amazing stuff and you just need to get it into more people's hands. Well, if that's the case and you're still listening to this podcast, it's because when I speak to your problems, there's just this weird thing in your brain that goes, well, if he understands the problems, then he must understand the solution. Now, in this situation, I do understand it, but that's just the way that it is too with your customers. If you can speak to that problem. Now, notice I didn't come over here and speak to you in terms of, let me talk to you about everything that we'll teach you inside of the Life Coach School or Life Coach Certification or inside of the 626. I didn't talk about that, right? Because here's the thing, like I've experienced my own belief bridge and I've gotten to this point in my life. But if I talk to people from this ridge of the bridge and I'm shouting across this big bridge to the other side, this person's like, I don't care how many modules your program has. I don't care how many superfoods your thing has. I don't care about any of that. It's irrelevant to me because this is my problem. You see, they don't know how your program or your solution is actually the solution to their problem because you haven't told them. You haven't explained it to them. You haven't broken through their limiting beliefs. You haven't had your pivot. You haven't talked about your pillars. I mean, there's those pieces that come together to create that bridge. But if you're just talking to them in your language, you're just talking to them from where you are right now, you're failing to go back to them, grabbing their hand and saying, hey, I totally get it. This is where I was, or this is where the people that I help were. And here's that bridge that we go across, which is why they say a customer, before that person actually signs up, it usually takes 3 to 6 months. It's because in that period of time, that's when you have the opportunity to build the belief bridge. But if you don't build the belief bridge in that 3 to 6 months period of time, they're off somewhere else because they want to find somebody else that is relevant to them because you're not speaking to their subconscious mind, okay? So that is your homework assignment for this week, all right? I want you to paint a picture of a problem. Now, I'm not saying that you should just make your whole entire post, video, podcast, everything about problems. Guys, I didn't make this podcast all about problems either. I offered you one piece of the solution. Notice I didn't tell you everything that you need to know, because if I did that, I would literally create this thought in your mind that you had everything that you need. You don't. Not only if you're somebody who struggles with this, not only do you need that structure, but you need the coaching, you need the help, you need the support, you need the community, you need the personalization to make it mean something about your business, because I can't just teach you one universal thing and then you would have it forever, right? I want you to do the same thing with your program, all right? I want you to teach the what and not necessarily the how, because if you teach the how, people think that they have it all and they can go off and do it on their own, and you're doing them a huge disservice because most people, 99% of people, can't do that, okay? All right, guys. Let's do this. Let's end with a quote, all right? This quote is, the best leaders and coaches are the ones who follow their own advice, but not just when it suits them, when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable too. So the best leaders and coaches are the ones who follow their own advice, not just when it suits them, but when it's inconvenient and uncomfortable too. So if you want to be that leader, and I know that you already are, you want to be that coach, and I know that you already are, take your own advice, the advice that you're giving others, and run it through your own filter too. Because if it's just when it's convenient for you to take action, that you take action, you know that it's got to be also when it's inconvenient, when it's uncomfortable. Because not only is it important for you to take those actions for your own benefit, but it's important for you to take those actions for other people's benefits. And that's what you guys are doing every single day. I'm so freaking proud of you for being out there, for getting uncomfortable, for doing the things anyway, for being here to this end of this podcast where you could have very easily just shut it off and moved on to the next one. But no, you made it here because you want to make an impact in the world, and you already are. But I want to teach you some strategies, if I can, to make that impact even bigger. All right, guys, I appreciate you for making another episode, and I look forward to seeing you guys on Thursday. All right, have a great, safe, and healthy week. All right, bye, everybody.